Hello, welcome back to Snugglewood, young Dreamlynx. My name is Irene. Snuggle down into your coziest quilt and let tonight's calming story and soothing sounds relieve you of any worries and guide you towards a deep, restful night's sleep under these beautiful stars above. And so our story begins in a place called Dolphin Bay and the sleepy giant tale of Clown Fish Emobobs. The warm currents of the southern reef swept across a bustling underwater world where colour and life thrived in harmony. It was here that the Clown Fish Emobobs called home, darting between the swaying anemones that provided both shelter and safety. The reef was a place of endless wonder. Coral spires rose like fantastical towers, their vibrant hues painting the seafloor beneath a vast blue expanse. Schools of fish weaved intricate patterns in the water, moving as one as they maneuvered around the outcrops of rock and coral gardens. Beneath this vivid tapestry, the ocean was alive with subtle, rhythmic sounds, the soft crackle of crustaceans at work, the distant hum of larger fish cruising through deep channels, and the occasional rush of passing currents. These sounds created a subdued symphony that lulled the reef's inhabitants into their daily routines. Among the sea of activity, the clownfish had their role to play. They were hardy and resourceful, finding refuge in the tentacled arms of anemones that protected them. The anemones, in turn, benefited from the care of their striped companions, as the clownfish helped keep them clear of debris. This symbiotic relationship defined much of life on the reef, a dedicated balance of give and take that sustained the vibrant diversity of the tropical waters. For the clownfish, life was an orderly series of routines. Food was plentiful, the currents predictable, and the reef offered a sanctuary where they could find safety at every turn. Despite this stability, there was a quiet undercurrent of exploration and curiosity within some of the younger members of the community. Each new crevice, tunnel, and coral overhang offered the potential for discovery, and there was no shortage of secrets hidden within the reef. One day, as the sun filtered down through the aquamarine waters, an adventurous young clownfish ventured farther from safety of the anemones than usual. Drawn by the brilliant display of a nearby coral bloom, swaying in the motion of the sea, the young explorer marveled at the shapes and colors that shifted with the ebb and flow. The reef seemed endless, each corner revealing a new pocket of life, from delicate sea fans waving their limbs to playful seahorses dancing in the hidden alcoves. Deeper into the reef, the world took on a different character. While the upper levels glowed with sunlight, the deeper channels offered a subdued ambience, where light gave way to shadows and the colours became richer, as if painted in darker hues. It was here that the clownfish encountered one of the revered elders of the ocean, a lumbering sea turtle gliding serenely inches above the seabed. This ancient creature wove gracefully through the coral labyrinths, its presence commanding a sense of respect among the reef's inhabitants. Though the turtle moved deliberately, its every action seemed purposeful, as it gently disturbed the sand to reveal tiny sources of sustenance. The passage of time near the reef followed the rhythm of the waves, and as the sun began to lower in the sky, the reef started to settle. The creatures of the day retreated to their havens, while nocturnal animals began to emerge in search of food. The reef transformed beneath the dimming waters, as its residents prepared for the quiet of the night. The clownfish, too, nestled deeper into the comfort of their anemones, shielded from the occasional nighttime traveller. The ocean was a vast and unpredictable force, yet the interconnected lives within the reef continued, bound by tradition, survival, and the pursuit of life in this aquatic world. Each day brought with it new wonders and challenges, as the clownfish and their neighbours adapted to the currents and the changes within their environment. The oceans held secrets, not only to those who lived beyond the waves, where the clownfish played their part in the story of balance and vitality with this endless underwater playground. The sleepy giant of the reef was not a creature of great haste, nor one to disrupt the delicate harmony of its surroundings. It lay nestled between the coral's vibrant arms, a massive grouper whose movements were as deliberate as the ocean's tides. Known by the smaller inhabitants as Old Zephyr, the grouper was a guardian-like presence, ancient and wise. Their eyes, dark and reflective, seemed to hold the history of the reef in their depths. Old Zephyr moved as little as needed, drifting to and from its hiding place, only when hunger called or occasional curiosity stirred it from its rest. It wasn't laziness that kept the grouper still, but a kind of meditative existence, a profound connection with the rhythms of the reef. To the clownfish and their kin, Old Zephyr was both a source of stories and a subject of awe. They whispered tales of Zephyr's encounters with storms that overturned the reef, or stories of how it outsmarted large hunters in younger days. The reef mirrored a kind of eternal sleep, restless yet cyclical, with each part playing a role in its choreography. The dolphins, playful messengers of the reef, darted overhead, their sleek forms glinting in the filtered sunlight. They occasionally stirred up currents that sent rippling waves through the underwater landscape, rearranging sand and carrying new morsels towards the coral nooks. Schools of angelfish added splashes of yellow and blue to the scenery as they weaved through the branches of staghorn coral, their movements as synchronized as any practiced dance. Near the edges of the reef, where the shelter of the coral began to give way to open waters, a juvenile sea turtle, bashful and unsure, cautiously flapped its flippers. It had lost its way from its family and now navigated the shadows, drawn to the warmth of the shallows. Among the coral labyrinth's many paths, the sea turtle found both danger and guidance. Murky figures lurked in the distance, a reminder of the lurking barracudas, but the brilliance of bioluminescent algae illuminated safer routes through the underwater maze. Above, beams of sunlight filtered through, speckled and refracted by the surface waves. They painted moving patterns across the seafloor, creating bright pathways that resembled golden rivers. These sunlit corridors were often used by smaller fish and crustaceans as safe passages, their glimmers distracting larger movers. Green seaweed swayed with the ebb and flow of the water, framing these light streams like curtains, adding to the reef's magical, dreamlike quality. Even amidst danger, the reef thrived on collaboration. The cleaner shrimp continued their work, fearlessly hopping onto larger fish to pluck parasites and debris from their scales. For their services, the shrimp earned protection and food. A peculiar relationship blossomed here, one born out of mutual need and an unspoken agreement. This interaction was but one example of how life on the reef was a tapestry of interdependence, each strand critical to the whole. Far beneath the vibrant life, where the ocean floor fell into deeper shadows, the whispers of deep-sea creatures painted tales of mystery. Luminescent eyes and tentacles wove their own magic in the cold, dark expanses beyond the reef's bustling regions. These creatures seldom ventured upward, yet their presence reinforced the vastness and diversity of underwater life. They were the keepers of the unseen world, allowing the brighter creatures above to take the stage in the reef's performance. On certain clear nights, the bioluminescence among the coral felt like starlight trapped underwater. Glowing plankton and iridescent jellyfish turned the reef into a celestial dreamscape. This spectacle mesmerized not only the creatures of the reef, but also the sleepy tide pools just beyond it, where the hermit crabs and shy eels would emerge briefly, drawn by the quiet luminescence. The reef's beauty, much like the sleeping giant itself, radiated a calm yet commanding presence. Old Zephyr, though rarely moving, would sense these shifts in the reef. As it rested, its massive fins would flit against the currents whenever bioluminescent waves passed over its sleepy form. The gentle light reminded Zephyr of the reef's tireless persistence and boundless vitality, something even it, in all its old age, drew energy from. Today, another story unfolded, not one filled with high drama, but with small, subtle movements of life, interwoven like the coral's polyps. The night watchers, a small group of nocturnal fish, had just begun emerging from their crevices. Unlike their daytime counterparts, these fish moved cautiously, avoiding the open waters as silhouettes often lurked under cover of darkness. The cardinal fish led this nightly parade, their silver bodies shimmering even in low light. They darted from shadow to shadow, gathering small food particles, disturbed by the ocean's slow churning. Meanwhile, the hermit crabs engaged in their nightly search for new shells. Amid the calm of the reef, disputes occasionally rose over a particularly desirable vacant home, their tiny claws clashing like miniature swords under the moonlit sea. These unlikely battles were brief, and the victor often retreated quickly, wary of drawing attention from nocturnal shadows. Balance was maintained even in these moments of competition. Pufferfish hovered nearby, curious about the undercurrents of activity. By nature, they were calm, but capable of swift transformation. Their spines a defense mechanism reserved for the rare moments which crossed the reef's otherwise tranquil shores. Tonight they watched rather than swam, blending with the coral as their bulbous eyes scanned for their next meal. Every corner of the reef offered a microcosm of stories, each one unfolding quietly against the backdrop of the greater aquatic world. The reef was alive with sounds, from the clicking of shrimp pincers to the low thrumming of distant whale songs, a reminder that even the ocean's giants were part of this intricate underwater network. The sleepy giant, old Zephyr, remained still through the orchestra of life around it, a steady presence between the vibrant chaos of survival and harmony. Thus, as the sun's light faded, the reef entered another phase of its endless cycle. Rest and renewal intertwined, allowing life to persist and flourish. Old Zephyr continued to watch, listen, and breathe in harmony with the pulse of the ocean, a testament to the timeless resilience and balance found within the magnificent underwater playground. Old Zephyr lingered, unmoving, as the ocean's gentle rhythm cradled the reef into the night. Though the creatures had retreated to their sanctuaries, the reef was far from silent. It hummed with life unseen, a symphony of light clicking, distant echoing calls, and the steady whoosh of currents weaving through the coral spires. Each sound carried a secret, a story of the boundless world beneath the waves. High above, silvery moonlight filtered through the water, casting shafts of light that danced over the seabed. It illuminated the subtle turns of soft coral fans, their tendrils swaying in tandem with the tides. Tiny translucent shrimp crept along the edges of the coral, their legs moving in delicate synchrony. Their eyes gleamed like pinpoints of starlight, always watchful, always alert. Zephyr's enormous form remained motionless, except for the slow rise and fall of his breath. From time to time, he flicked the edge of his broad tail, stirring the water enough to send a gentle current through the reef's crevices. This flow seemed to signal the beginning of a new rhythm, a slow awakening for the microscopic plankton. Swirling in the minuscule clouds, they caught the silver light in brief, radiant flashes as they began their nightly drift. The stillness of the scene belied the intricate dance happening around him. Within the coral maze, tiny clownfish huddled close to the protective tentacles of their anemone homes. They swayed gently, their bright orange stripes dulled in the dim light, blending into the soft glow of the reef. Nearby, a banded sea fish slithered effortlessly over the sandy plain, its slender form rippling with hypnotic grace. It paused only briefly to glance at Zephyr before vanishing into the shadows of an underwater ravine. From the shadows beyond, the reef murmured of ancient visitors. The gentle glow of a few torchlit fish revealed schools travelling deep within the tapestries of the coral. Their synchronized movements spoke of stories untold. Perhaps the message of a fellow reef 100 miles away. Their presence reminded Zephyr of the ocean's boundless connection, a bridge between shores and depths. A small current carried a fresh scent to Zephyr's keen senses, one that hinted of life beyond this reef. He craned his massive head, his long neck pushing upward towards the open ocean above. A pod of dolphins passed by swiftly, their forms sleek as they glided in graceful arcs near the surface. Their clicks and whistles echoed unusually loud against the reef's hushed tones, as though they were calling out to the deeper realm, teasing the quiet world below. Far from disrupted, Zephyr responded to the sound with a low, resonant hum, a vibration that quavered with the weight of age and knowing. The dolphins paused momentarily, their sleek bodies circling above, before darting into the ocean once more. Yet, within their fleeting presence, they left something intangible behind, a playful spontaneity that lingered like a memory. As the night pressed on, the scene transformed further and deepened the serenity. Bioluminescence zippled in dots across the seafloor, activated with every soft ripple of water. A small cuttlefish drifted nearby, its pulsating body casting a kaleidoscope of colour in response to the glow. For a moment it danced alone, an artist painting strokes against the dark canvas of the abyss. Zephyr watched quietly, marvelling at the fleeting beauty of such simple elegance. Even as the ocean's smaller denizens carried on their nightly rituals, Zephyr sensed a shift in the waters, a signal carried from distant currents. The vast expanse beyond began to stir. Somewhere far off, a great shadow moved. Zephyr deliberated, reflecting briefly on its meaning. He knew this signal well. It was one of the great giants like himself, travelling through the deep waters and nearing the reef's outer edges. The approaching presence was subtle at first, but as it drew nearer, the vibrations in the water became unmistakable. Slowly, over the course of hours, the great shadow resolved itself into the shape of a whale. It was a female humpback, her immense body outlined against the diffused light seeping down from above. Her deep, haunting song resonated far and wide, carrying notes that harmonized with the quiet pulse of the reef. Zephyr responded in kind, his rumbling vocalizations intertwining with hers, forming a duet of the deep. The conversation was unhurried and deliberate, a meeting of two ancient beings who bore witness to generations of life across the ocean. Their voices told tales of long migrations, strange encounters, and the changing tides that shaped their world. Finally, the humpback swam closer, her sleek form brushing gently against Zephyr's side. For a moment, they remained still, suspended in the water as if time itself had paused. Then, with a flick of her powerful tail, she moved further into the depths, her silhouette fading like a dream. Zephyr sighed, the sound resonating with quiet satisfaction. Such encounters were rare, but deeply meaningful. a reminder of the shared kinship among the ocean's great guardians. The night stretched on, the life of the reef continuing its endless rhythm. Seagrass swayed gently on the seabed. Crabs scuttled across it in search of food, and glowing jellies drifted lazily along the currents. All the while, Zephyr remained vigilant, his deep eyes scanning the reef for signs of change. Toward the hour before dawn, the first hints of light began to transform the water above. The moon's glow softened as the horizon brightened, heralding the arrival of day. The reef's nocturnal creatures retreated silently to their shelters, replaced by the familiar stirrings of fish and crustaceans, walking to the warm call of sunlight. Zephyr exhaled deeply, sending a trail of bubbles toward the surface. The transition from night to day was seamless, like the turning of a page in a book that had no end. He glanced upwards as the sunlight began to pierce the depths, its golden rays dispersing the hints of blue darkness lingering at the edges of the reef. The cycle continued, perpetual and unwavering. Reflecting on the passing night and the countless nights before it, Zephyr allowed himself a moment of stillness as the reef awakened once more. Then, with a final, slow and deliberate breath, he propelled himself upward, his massive body casting a shadow over the reef as he rose toward the dawning light. Life stirred below, its perpetual rhythm delicately balanced, as Zephyr disappeared into the brilliant shimmer above. A silent guardian, ever watchful of the ocean's endless playground. And so the ocean returned to its steady cadence, lulled by the warm glow of the morning sun. The creatures of the reef moved with purpose, embraced by the sanctuary of their world beneath the waves. Above, the surface sparkled like polished glass, a limitless horizon stretching into eternity. All was as it should be, harmonious, steady, and alive. The ocean whispered its timeless promise to cradle and protect, a constant through the ages, inviting all who listened to dream once